All right, everybody, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble. I see people waiting and chat is moving. Apologies for being a little bit late. I had to water the garden. It took a little bit longer than I expected. The corn was all dry. It likes a little bit of dry weather, but they're still seedlings. So they're doing well, though. Oh, boy. I can't wait to show off the crops. I'll do one more update before I go to the Netherlands, maybe two. Got 2 weeks before I transit roughly, so I can probably work in 2, maybe even 3, because I'm just obsessed with the garden. Last night, actually, I was going to sleep out in the garden. I dragged a blanket out there and everything. I had an MRE and a combat helmet, and I was in the zone, but then the moon was really, really bright because there were no clouds in the sky. I am an insomniac. That doesn't work very well, so I had to come back in, sadly. Wait for another overcast night, I suppose. A lot of news today. The Iranian president is confirmed dead in a helicopter crash. I suspect that there was foul play involved. The problem is that the laundry list of people that would want Raisi dead is pretty long. He's president of Iran, of course, and that's big in the news at the moment. We'll be analyzing that. We'll do a little bit of a betting. Maybe people can weigh in on who they think done it. I have a feeling it was not simple engine failure or inclement weather. I think that he was assassinated. There's a free Assange movement, of course. It's been around for years, and it's got a little bit of new breath in its life. Julian Assange's appeal to avoid extradition will go ahead. It could be legally groundbreaking. In the end, I think they'll kill him anyway. But, I mean, imagine if the British release Julian Assange. What's going to happen the second that he steps outside? A black van's going to come and they're going to bag him and tag him, basically. It's a big problem. He's a dead man walking. He probably knows this, hence his advanced health issues, mental health and otherwise. Can't imagine he gets a lot of sleep. And just think, British prison, posh compared to what he would face in the United States. I hope they don't extradite him. I am Team Assange myself. Joe Scarborough weighing in, our favorite Joe Scarborough. There is no Russia hoax. Putin has and is meddling in U.S. elections. More conspiracy theories from the MSNBC lineup. We'll talk about those. Cannabis plants were sown at the Wisconsin State Capitol Tulip Garden. Dozens of them, by the way. There's pictures of them. They removed them. They look pretty posh. Unfortunately, even medical marijuana is illegal in the state of Wisconsin. Do you know what the tragic irony? The Republicans were the ones that sponsored a bill to decriminalize it for medical usage, and it was blocked by a consortium of Senate Republicans and some Democrat unipartyists. They don't want you to get high. They aren't Afro, man. Joe Biden faces potentially nightmarish June swoon with his re-election hopes fading. He's hoping to restart his campaign with the first debate. I don't think it'll work. I think that Joe Biden is toast, actually, at this point. With the economy not really slated to pick up, the border crisis not going anywhere, and no real diplomatic or foreign policy successes, Biden's on the ropes right now. He's got some fucking problems. Thank you, Grotesque Subhuman. I think I look good as well. Look, I'm marvelously tan. Normally I burn. This year I'm actually getting like a proper tan. Pretty good. He was acquitted on charges related to the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping case. Now he's running for sheriff. Yes, indeed. He was entrapped, you see. Eric Molitor in focus over in Michigan. And then there was a coup attempt in the Congo. Nobody knows about it, unless they have to analyze the news like I do for a living. Yes, there was an attempted overthrow of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. They managed to get the assailants and deal with it. Orange Grove 55. How do you deal with haters? By ignoring them and not justifying their existence mainly. Also by working harder, succeeding, and then forcing them to see me succeed. I take a perverse delight in other people who don't like me having to see me make 6 figures and appeal to 100,000 people every single day. Find it funny. Mr. Pockets, good afternoon from New Hampshire. Right across the river from us. Know any good ways to deal with bittersweet vine? We're clearing it from a property recently, and it's quite hard to deal with. Haven't heard of it, so I wouldn't know. My apologies. Mike the Wop. You know what they say, don't you? If you love a man's garden, you gotta love the man. Al Pacino is Frank Serpiso, and Serpiso from 1973. Clank fuckers. The Dashing Rogue. World War III will be China versus Eurasia versus EU and US. Don't think so. World War III will be everyone getting glassed in 30 minutes and never recovering from that. King Earwig, you can have my free Google money since Google won't let Stefan Molyneux have it. Yeah, he's not back on YouTube, is he? He's on Gab. He's got other presences. He should get back on Twitter, but I think he's pledged not to, actually. Stefan Molyneux, by the way, I've talked to him a couple of times. He's a fun dude. I don't agree with everything that he says, much like literally every other content creator. Hell, even my brother from another mother, Razor Fist. We can't step in line on food items. I think that I have the moral high ground on that, though, because I like medium rare steak, pineapple on pizza, and beans and chili. And we should have a contest. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'll show up at Razor Fist's house, and we'll have a consortium of clankers and Razor Force people, and we'll serve them steak and pizza and chili, and we'll see who wins. I think that I can convert all of those Razor Force members, at least on the chili. I mean, black beans and stuff like that. You can't go wrong with that. We've, by the way, got a new merch partner. I see the King of Biltong and Pumpkin Fire are in chat. We've got a new merch partner now as well. We've got the Lego Museum in Bel Air, Ohio. We'll be taking that link. Again, this is the first time I've shouted them out. So, it's novel and shit. All right. Let's get to the main news of the day, namely the death of the president of Iran, Raisi, Ibrahim Raisi, died in a helicopter crash. Very unfortunate. It just so happens to be about 100 miles away from the border with Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Turkey. That's coincidence number one. After having lifted off, knowing that there was highly inclement weather, that's coincidence number two. And while there were several Azerbaijani diplomats aboard the helicopter, coincidence number three. Everything about this smacks of foul play to me. I do not believe this was an accidental helicopter crash. It's possible. Weirder things have happened. But let's look at the likelihood of it being an accident versus it being inflicted in some way. I think that the latter is more likely. Our problem boils down to finding out who done it. Well, here's a laundry list of different groups that might want Raisi dead. Dissidents in Iran, which predominate in certain parts of the country. They could have bullseyed the aircraft. That's possible. There is an upswelling of liberal sentiment among especially the youth in Iran against sort of the Ayatollah-backed and Raisi friendly towards, that particular clerical regime. Seemed like a hardliner in at least the moralistic sense. So it could be dissidents. It could be liberal dissidents within Iran. The Israelis might have lashed out. That's entirely possible. Either themselves or through maybe a Turkish proxy. Again, this is near the Turkish border. Why? Because Iran announced last week, one of its ministers said, yeah, we probably have nuclear bombs. We wouldn't confirm or deny it if we had them. Well, what better time to make an example of the leader of a country that's hostile towards you that says that it's developing the atomic bomb? Well, that would make sense. What about Palestine? Hamas and similar groups, Hezbollah, some of these groups actually aligned with Iran. If they thought that the president of Iran was being too namby-pamby and not speaking out enough about what's going on in Gaza or giving them enough aid or mobilizing Hezbollah effectively enough, they might knock him off too. What about the Armenians? Recently at war with their neighbors in Azerbaijan. Well, there are a couple of diplomats from that country on the helicopter, and you happen to be within sight of their border. Well, that could be an impetus. You might want to kill him too, along with the diplomats. Is probably the main target in that case. What about the Azerbaijanis? Oh, false flag event. Hey, the Armenians killed, Iran, newsflash, the Armenians just killed your leader along with our diplomats. Maybe you want to help us in this war, in this effort to annex land or whatever. There are the CIA. What if the United States did it? What if the Russians did it as a false flag, an impetus to spread a regional war? While Israel is currently tied up and has its own problems. That's always possible as well. The problem is that there's like a dozen different groups and nations that might have been interested in killing Raisi, including his own people in some capacity. It could have been the government of Iran. They said, well, Raisi's older. He's not doing his job as well. He's not a hardliner anymore. In private, he talked to me about liberalization of moral policies. Well, we've got to do something about this. Holy shit. well, send him over there and, there's fog and shit like that. We can always make it look like an accident. We'll just take the helicopter down. We'll put an explosive in it beforehand and, we'll clear out the wreckage and nobody will know. Nobody will be the wiser. There are too many people that wanted him dead, in other words. U.S., Russia, potentially, Azerbaijanis, Armenians, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Israelis, Iranian dissidents, the upper brass within Iran. Could have been the Chinese. We have no clue, but I think that it was foul play. I believe that he was assassinated. He was probably the primary target. If it has anything to do with Armenia/Azerbaijan, the fact that a couple of dignitaries were aboard, that would be of note. But it's probably not an accident, just to be clear. Andrew Saber, greetings from Nebraska, Sticks. I just bought 4 chickens. I've already set up a trade with the guy who lives up the road and raises sheep. Nice. Yeah, you get some fresh eggs. I want pet chickens. Chickens are cool. I don't understand why some people, they don't like the smell or something like that. It's like, okay, they smell like sawdust and chicken. They smell nice. I don't even like chicken meat, but chickens themselves are pretty bro tier, and they make little cluck-cluck noises, and they putter around and eat grubs in your garden. Mike the Wop, Sir Pico. Hope all is well, Tarl. I enjoyed your heaven video. I have a couple spots like that, human-free except me. Yeah, there's one spot out in the woods, a little swampy area, a couple of acres in size that nobody else ever goes to. Trash ends up in there because the local teens, I think they party up at the ball field, and they've literally decorated trees with like empty beer cans and weird shit like that. And I'm apparently the only person in Vermont that's willing to pick up trash without being paid to do so. So I try to keep it as clean as I can. I've thought about going up there when they're having one of their weekend ragers and scaring the fuck out of them. Put on a gorilla costume or something like that. They'll think I'm Bigfoot. Alamand, oh, maybe I should get some clankers aboard. There are plenty of clankers in Rutland. Yeah, let's go have some fun with the local teens. That'd be fucking hilarious. Just don't get yourself shot or something like that. Almondorius, hey, Sticks. Finances have kept me away for a bit. 3 visits to the mechanic in 2 weeks. That sucks. I sent you a Timcast video on X. Apparently, Arizona isn't allowed to determine someone's citizenship for voting purposes for now. And I saw that case. If anyone has a beefy link on that, I'm interested in the story, but I mean, it's Arizona, so you can never be too sure about Maricopa. Certain death. Trial update. Cohen admits to stealing $30K from Trump Organization. Yes, the Alvin Bragg case is officially dead. That's going to result in a not guilty verdict almost certainly. It doesn't matter if you convene a Manhattan jury. It's too damning at this point, too toxic. Bystander syndrome. Clank. Clank to you too, sir. Or madame. I'm not sure. Bystander syndrome. Crowder's group had a bunch of funny Iran Burning Man jokes. Lol. I request more dark roast from Sticks or the chat if you guys have any crashing and burning jokes. Yeah, I only joke about world leaders when they die if they are particularly pernicious. So like John McCain or Fidel Castro. As far as Raisi, he might have been taken out by the hardliners in his country. Maybe he was getting soft. It's like, well, I don't know. Do I really want to keep raping protesters? I don't know. Maybe he just gave up. Sungmin Valerian. Hey, Sticks, minor victory in the Warhammer culture war. The faction at the center of the Force gender retcon, Adeptus Custodes, is now out of the tabletop game meta, and Games Workshop is head towards Bud Light treatment. Yeah, I don't really care if games get woke. I really don't. I don't play Warhammer or anything like that. So as long as they're not censoring it to deliberately make it that way for branding and marketing purposes, I don't really care. In that tabletop game, you've got transgendered characters. I don't know. I can't bring myself to care because I don't play it. Next news story. Julian Assange's appeal to avoid extradition will go ahead. It could be legally groundbreaking, although he's likely to lose in the end, just to be clear. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange's challenge to the order for his extradition to the United States to face charges of computer misuse and espionage will continue after the High Court in London rejected U.S. government assurances that his rights to freedom of expression would be protected. Yeah, they're really going to protect those rights. Now, they're going to lock him away and never see the light of day again. That's the whole point. This is an attempt to torture the man. On March 26, the High Court conditionally granted Assange the right to appeal the UK Home Secretary's order that he be extradited. The High Court granted Assange the right to appeal on 3 grounds and agreed to hear a full appeal on those grounds only. The court sought assurances from the U.S. that the risks posed to Assange if he were extradited, like fucking dying or being poisoned or stabbed, would be prevented. It decided the assurances were insufficient. What happens now? The British probably cuck on the issue. Unfortunately, that's the most likely outcome. So don't, the fact that he won the right to appeal the decision, while meaningful, and it is good, he should have the right to appeal, is just a little bit of a stumbling block in the path to them bringing him to the US and killing him. That's basically what they want to do. It's unfortunate because Julian Assange did nothing wrong. What did he do? He did what journalists are supposed to do and dumped the dirty laundry of the US government out for the public to behold. And that's why CNN was trying to cover for the regime, actually, and saying, don't read the WikiLeaks leaks. No, it's illegal. Let us read them and tell you what you need to know, which was absolutely false at the time. They didn't tell anyone jack shit. It wasn't illegal to read the WikiLeaks releases. WikiLeaks is still functional, which is good. That being said, without Julian Assange there as figurehead, is weakened in some form. But then you have this side issue of Julian Assange being perpetually imprisoned. He was in the Ecuadorian embassy at first, and then they gave him up to the British. And then the US said, hey, we want him. He's a spy, basically. But there's never been any evidence that's been offered. This appeal doesn't even have to do with the centrality of the case itself, which is horseshit to begin with. It has to do with the conditions of the US prison system more than anything else. It has to do with whether Mr. Assange in a US prison will actually be treated according to the customs and norms that would be found in a British prison, basically. Imagine if he had been detained by the Swedes or something. You know, originally he had that sex crime charge that fell through against him, which was obvious bullshit as well. I do believe that. Although he probably banged Pamela Anderson. So congrats to Julian for having some fun there. Now he's married to Stella Assange, I believe it is. The thing is, I mean, if he were in one of those countries, there's no way they would extradite, because the conditions in the U.S. prison system, even in like the lavish, like low security federal prisons, are inhumane compared to what they would have in like Sweden or Norway. Scandinavian countries, they'll put you out in the polar Arctic, but then you get a suite. It's more like a fucking college dorm. They get music rooms and computers and everything else, and you know, probably pretty good food if their military rations are any indicator. But this is Britanistan, and the British are subjugate to the United States. I hate to tell you, British people out there, British clankers, your country is basically the bitch of the United States. I hate to tell you that, but it's the truth. In the end, they'll probably extradite him, but it'll take them years or at least months to do it. And it's basically just a delay tactic. Bara, have you ever had jellied eels? No, but I would love to try them. I know it's one of the more bizarre and wretched foods that the British have ever developed, but I would definitely try it. I'd probably like it. I've liked a lot of foods that people swore up and down I wouldn't like menudo, cow stomach soup. I think it's delicious myself. JC, Care, your child will be playing woke games soon. My child ain't going to be playing Warhammer anytime soon. Probably won't exist by the time she's old enough to care about tabletop games. The Grizzly, I usually agree with Tim Pool, but I have to nip this one in the bud. No, Trump did not strike a deal with the Uniparty. If he did, all the persecution would stop. It wouldn't quicken pace. Agreed. Mark Frigola, you say Dems won't replace Biden, but he could die. Well, yeah, and that can't necessarily be prevented, but in the absence of him croaking or being completely incapacitated, he'll be the nominee. Sparky, maybe the Iranian helicopter pilot using the Mossad weather service, or could Mossad have inserted a false weather report knowing which weather services they used? That would be harder than just planting an explosive or something like that. I have a feeling that there was foul play involved. It could have been Mossad easily. That would be near the top of the list. Or the Armenians, because of the Azerbaijani diplomats aboard. Armenia leaning more towards the west, Azerbaijan more in the pocket of Russia. Dissidents within Iran. Hamas could have done it, false flag style. Hezbollah could have said, well, we're not getting enough support from Iran. We'll kill their president, and that'll draw them into the war. We'll make it look like the Israelis did it or something. The CIA could have done it. The United States. Could have been the Eastern Bloc countries. Maybe they got tired of him. Maybe he's too much of a soft liner in private or something. We have no clue, but there's a 90% chance there was foul play involved. Sigreb, you planted the pumpkin and cantaloupe too close together. They each need around 10 square feet to spread out. They'll smother anything else around. You should move them before you go to Europe. A little bit late to do that now. I think they've got room. It's a little bit more room than maybe you see on the camera, actually. It's quite spread out. They'll be fine. And by the way, those are the smaller pumpkins anyway. Those are the pie pumpkins. These aren't the great big 50-pounders that you turn into jack-o'-lanterns. I just wanted like actual pumpkin pie, like with real, authentic, homegrown pumpkins. Hidden Angels. What's your stance on concealed carry licensee who accidentally left the gun in a public restroom asking for a friend? I don't see the problem with it. You should be able to do whatever you want with your firearm. Webster's Wares. Good morning, Clankers from Endicott, Washington. Free shipping using code STICKS at websterswares.com store-wide. Indeed, in a moment, we'll get to our merch partners. Alvman, happy Monday. Another week of vids on Alvman and Just the AR platform. Yes, a shout out for you. Ram Bam 3000. Sticks, I'm English and I agree with you. Well, yeah, I mean, it's the sad truth. The British Empire basically collapsed and the United States became its protector and guarantor, but that comes with being a bitch, unfortunately. Not that the British government didn't deserve it. Love the British people, but your government is a little bit on the wonky side. I mean, I'm being hypocritical. Our government right now is a little bit wonky too. Anyway, let's get to our merch partners before we begin with the rest of the news with Scarborough rambling about the Russia hoax endlessly. We have pumpkinfirecrafts.us. You can get keychains, belt chains, engraved spoons, amulets, and much more. They are all available now. And the plethora of various merch continues to expand, so visit them. BiltongUSA.com. Use code STICKS for free shipping, or AntonsUSA.com. Based in Roanoke, Texas. Of course, you have your biltong. Really great meat. I gave away some of the carbonaceae to one of my mom's friends the other day because there's a little bit of an overflow. And I'm still eating the elk because, that's the best one. I like that best. And we've also got Stick, Sex, and Hammer mugs, tumblers, and shirts available. But of course, you go for the meat. Maybe you buy a mug or something like that. Wicked Needle Embroidery.bigcartel.com, the land of Stick, Sex, and Hammer hats. We've got several designs and colors available. Heritage Heirloom Seed Company.com, the land of the seed survival bucket. Many of those seeds growing out in the garden, the corn, the beans, and many other things. They're growing really well, by the way, especially the tender green bush beans. Those pushed up really quickly, so I'm impressed by those ones. Not hard to grow beans, but these ones germinated, it seems, a little bit faster than the average bean. I'm thankful for that because I fucking love green beans. And also, we've got the Sticks, Hex, and Hammer soap box available there as well, discounted at the moment with the soap that we've designed together. It's clove, cedar, and blueberry. And every time I take a shower, I use it. websterswares.com/sticks-wares. We've got metal straws available. We've got beanies available. Various paraphernalia available, including knives with the Ouroboros logo on them. I love that. I've got one on me right now, and it did something to my finger, unfortunately, the other day. Definitely well sharpened. So, if you're using it in the kitchen, no problems. You can get a sharpening block if you need to. You won't need it for a while. We've got jamandbean.com. That is JAMNbean.com, the land of delicious Stick, Sex, and Hammer endorsed coffee and tea. They're all great, but the Costa Rica blend will always get a unique shout out because it's just so fucking perfect. It's the only 10 out of 10 coffee that I've had. Just trust me on this one. Buy a bag of it. See for yourself. It's delicious. MTPew.com. That is MTPEW.com. Ammo from Bearded Grizzly. Some of it's range brass, some of it's newly manufactured, various calibers available for both handguns and rifles. And also now welcoming BrickMuseum.com. They will be opening soon in Blair, Ohio. Look at the website there and take a look at some of the pictures that they've got up there. This is a massive collection of Legos and Lego adjacent things. It's probably, presumptively, it's a second only to like the official Lego museum you'd see in Denmark, where I think they're still based. I don't know if they've sold out since the 90s when I was a kid, but I know it was there. It is a massive collection. I will probably be going to see it myself at some point. Maybe we'll have like a meet and greet featuring Biltong or something maybe. But I liked Legos as a kid. Yeah, non-woke Legos. It's definitely up my alley. So book your ticket now to go to the Lego Museum, the Brick Museum in Blair, Ohio. Again, link in the description. So yeah, those are our merch sponsors. Duckman, the CIA seemingly was stopped trying to get Sleepy Creepy Joe those Green New Deal conflict materials in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Yes, we'll be talking about the attempted coup there. And I've got questions about that one. Ryan McDonald, USA, Trump to Libertarian National Convention this week. I may live stream react to that, actually. I'm not 100% sure, but I might do a live reaction to that particular consortium. Alamendorius, I suggest you listen to Pumpkin Pie by Lemon Demon. It's just an amusing little song. Stormblood20. Hey, Sticks, got my garden all planted yesterday. Can't wait to can it all and make salsa. Know any good ways to make a sandier soil better for a garden? I just use regular cow shit. Now, if you're using biochar, that's great, but adding the carbon alone wouldn't be enough. You need something more nitrogenous. Just some compost, composted manure. You know, mix it together. Do a good stratum. Caleb Maastricht, just quit my shitty job. Wish me luck. Clank. Good luck to you. I'm sure that you can get a better, less shitty job. Good on you. Some people, they don't dare to quit their jobs. Like, well, you know, I need the money, but then it's like, yeah, but there's this other job that might pay a little more. My boss isn't a complete asshole. Let's see. We've got Webster's Wares. We just added a rewards program. Anyone who signs up that is previously ordered, we will add points equal to your purchase amount. Check it out. websterswares.com/loyalty. Interesting. 'Tis a good day. Next news story. Scarborough, you know, Joe Scarborough on MSNBC. Yeah, big tough man. Was it him or was it that other dude who allegedly killed a staffer at some point or something like that? I can't remember. I think it was Scarborough. There is no Russia hoax. Putin has and is meddling in the U.S. elections. And this is with Brzezinski, so of course, you know, it goes off the chain. The idea is that there is no Russia hoax. Just ignore literally all available evidence that you've been presented with. No. Trump really is working with the Russians. The Russians who he threatened to bomb if they invaded Ukraine. The Russians who iced him out. The Russians who work close hand in hand with the Chinese that he waged a trade war on. He's the one that's controlled by the Kremlin. But meanwhile, Joe, who has connections through his son in various Eastern European countries, would totally never be associated with the Kremlin. Despite the fact that under his tenure, Ukraine has been invaded, the Russians are fucking around in the Balkan states and everything else. Just ignore that. No, it's Donald Trump. Clearly, Putin wants a strong U.S. leader who will actually put him in his place, as opposed to the vegetable in chief who is basically nothing more than a puppet. That's what it boils down to. The American public is a willing accomplice here. Oh, blaming the public. By the way, that goes over well. Said Atlantic staff writer Tom Nichols. When this shows up on the internet or Facebook or YouTube, wherever people get it, you know I'm asked, what can they do about this? I say, stop getting your news there. It's kind of like eating junk food all day. Oh, a pitch for the legacy media. Get your news from MSNBC. It'll be so much more accurate than that Twitter post. No, I think you should get your news from me. I might be a little bit biased, but I like to think that I'm fair. Sometimes I have to fucking criticize the GOP. Well, pretty much a couple times a week at this point because they're so fucking stupid. There's a really simple answer to that. Stop having milkshakes for breakfast. People don't want to do that. I don't get the reference. One thing the Russians really understand about us is that Americans are easily bored and we love a good story. We love this stuff. We eat it up, Nichols said Thursday on Morning Joe. Interesting. That Putin and Xi Jinping, both of who hate Trump, by the way, are trying to help him get reelected by pumping the U.S. media ecosystem full of propaganda. No, I thought that was MSNBC's job, Joe. It seems like most of the propaganda comes from you. One of the most maddening things out there is people talking about the Russia hoax. They keep talking about the Russian hoax. The Russians never tried to influence our elections. It's all, you know, this, that, or the other. You actually have a chairman of the House GOP Armed Services Committee, Intel Committee, and Foreign Affairs Committee, all saying that Russian disinformation is being spread on the House floor by Republican members. Here, we have more reporting of what has never really stopped. That is, Vladimir Putin and Russia trying to help Donald Trump get elected again. Didn't you try this in 2016 and it didn't work too well, by the way? I mean, hoax? There is no hoax. The propaganda is not only going on in media sources now, but Putin has now figured out a way to use House GOP members to spread Russia's lies. In other words, people with opinions that differ from your own. That's what it boils down to. Yes, Russia influences the U.S. elections. It would be crazy to say that they don't. The same with the Chinese and various other powers in the world with the resources to do so. So do the French, so do the British, the Germans, the Canadians, the Mexicans, the Argentinians and Brazilians, the Egyptians. Certainly, we've seen a lot of this from the Middle East, Turkey and Saudi Arabia especially. Of course they do. It's not exactly a hidden thing that nations attempt to influence the elections in other nations. What does the United States do? We use lobbying power constantly to influence other countries. The fact is, though, that it's not particularly high level. It's not particularly pervasive. In 2016, we had a couple million going to a Russian troll farm that was making Facebook memes. And that's the only real evidence that they ever uncovered. Ta-da! I'm sure that swung the election in a number of states. Yes, a few $1 million and a dozen people being employed in some random farmhouse out in the middle of nowhere in the Urals. That really swung the election, dude. That's what we're supposed to believe, apparently. Let's see. Inland surfer. That's true. Scarborough is a cock. His wife, as well as her side of the family, are super deep geopoliticians. I thought it was him that allegedly killed a staffer or something like that. I could be wrong. I mean, it could be any other person at MSNBC or CNN or something like that. Happens all the time. Just a little accidental strangulation. Workers remove dozens of apparent cannabis plants from Wisconsin Capitol Tulip Garden. This is our fun news for the day. Tatiana Warwick, I wonder if she's a relative of mine distantly, a spokeswoman for the State Department of Administration, told the Associated Press that workers had removed the plants, but the agency couldn't determine whether they were marijuana or hemp. If there were about 20 of them, I'm assuming that Harold the Happy Hippie probably wasn't just planting a hemp crop. Considering that they're equally illegal under Wisconsin's dumb state laws, I don't know why you would want to grow twine when you can grow drugs. Someone's planned to harvest dozens of apparent cannabis plants grown on the Wisconsin State Capitol grounds have gone up in smoke. How sad. The plants sprouted in a tulip garden outside the Capitol, the TV reported Thursday. Tatiana Warwick, a spokeswoman for the State Department of Administration, told the AP in an email Friday workers had removed the plants, but that the agency couldn't determine if they were marijuana or hemp. Both are forms of cannabis, but only marijuana has the compound that gets people high, in sufficient enough amounts to get you high, rather. Warwick didn't respond to questions about how the plants might have made it into the garden. By the way, you don't have a surveillance camera in front of your own Capitol? Well, I mean, it's probably Harold the Happy Hippie. Well, you can get him dead to rights. Oh, somebody was planting a bunch of seeds out among the tulips. And by the way, I was thinking to myself, especially in Wisconsin, you can't possibly have imagined that the plants were going to fully grow and bud and that nobody would notice them, so you'd actually be harvesting marijuana. So I have a feeling this is a protest grow, guerrilla gardening. Somebody had some extra seeds or seedlings or something. You know, they're growing right across the state lines, and they decided to troll the state government of Wisconsin. By the way, even medical marijuana is illegal in that state. The Republicans were the ones that were trying to legalize it, by the way, but Senate Republicans cock-blocked them, so they couldn't get it through. Very interesting state, Wisconsin. They have some wacky shit going on there. Sparky, at least Israel doesn't influence U.S. elections. Oh, of course they do. APAC is a thing. King of Biltong. Good morning from Anton's Meat Neat. Free shipping on your Biltong using code STICKS on www.biltongusa.com and www.antonsusa.com. Try our variety of carmine functional red teas imported from South Africa. Clank. Yeah, try anything there. It's all delicious. Those little crackery snacks are good too. Again, the elk biltong is really the best, but I will say those sausages that Anton makes, both the spicy and cheesy and the regular ones, if you chop those up and you put them in like a gumbo or something, much better than chorizo. Might piss off some NOLA residents out there by saying that, but just fucking try it. Just trust me. Just trust me on this one. Sparky, yes, Joe killed a female staffer, I think. It officially remained unsolved. Yeah, I thought it was him. I couldn't remember, though. It's me again, Sai. Sativa makes you sleepy. Now, sativa is the one that gives you, like, the buzz. Indica usually is the sleepy one, I think. Most of them are blends. Like White Widow is a 50-50 and stuff like that. By the way, new favorite monster. This Ultra Sunrise is pretty good shit. It reminds me of something else, but I can't quite put my finger on what it is. This is the sugar-free kind. It reminds me of the flavor of something I drank as a kid, but I don't know exactly what it is. It's got a citron flavor, sort of. Yeah, indica, I think, is the sleepy weed. And sativa is the head buzz weed, if I remember correctly. Never grown weed before. Yeah, totally never did that, nor would ever do it again. I can't use it, though. I can't actually get high anymore after my overdose. It's rather sad. Joe Biden faces potentially nightmarish June swoon with his re-election hopes fading. Yeah, I'd have to talk about this one. April is the cruelest month, poet T.S. Eliot famously declared. Joe Biden might beg to differ. June is shaping up as a potential nightmare for the 81-year-old president. I thought he was 82. His re-election, his legacy, and his son Hunter Biden's freedom are all on the line over the course of a month-long gauntlet. They spelled gauntlet wrong, by the way. Do better, New York Post. And he has only himself to blame. This is not, by the way, an unbiased article. The New York Post tends to be quite right-leaning. Biden's surprising demand last week that Donald Trump debate him twice with the first face-off in June underscores his desperation to get his campaign back on track. I agree with this. This is one thing that the legacy media is correctly interpreting. Joe Biden already had a line months ago where he was very non-committal about debating Donald Trump. He doesn't want to be on stage with Trump, both because he doesn't think he'll perform well, and neither do his handlers, and also because it looks like you're justifying Trump. You're mainlining him as a candidate, and his dismissal thing has been, well, if Trump behaves, maybe I'll debate him. I don't know, he's an insurrectionist and a fascist and a Nazi and all these things. I don't really want to be around him and stuff. And that's red meat to your base. But when your base is not large enough to secure you the election and you're behind in all the polling, you need to branch out further. You don't have a choice. That's the only reason why little Brandon decided to debate Donald Trump. It's a big risk. This is a Hail Mary move. If he really falters at this first debate, he's toast. I will be watching that with incredible interest. The only thing I can see that probably saved Joe Biden is the fact that Donald Trump is not good at delivering knockout punches in debates. This has vexed me, by the way, as someone who likes the form of debate and stuff. He'll be handed a statement by Joe Biden. Joe Biden really wades into it on something economic, the border, whatever it happens to be. And Trump has the opportunity to just pound him in the ass. What does he do? He parries instead. He gives him a couple jabs and then he wanders off, meanders off into La La Land and talks about something else. Trump has done this repeatedly. There are only two things that really piss me off about him. His debate style is not a good translation from his normal speaking style. At a rally, perfectly fine. Knocks it out of the park, keeps the energy up. It's great. It doesn't translate well to debates. That and his hiring practices. And I think I speak for most of you out there when, if you have two legit criticisms of Donald Trump, those would be the big ones. Who he hires, hopefully that changes, and how he debates. Oh, it pisses me off. He's a good public speaker, but he's handed the opportunity to absolutely floor his opponent, and he almost inevitably sidesteps. And I don't understand why. It's inexplicable to me. That's the only thing that's going to save Joe Biden in that debate. He can't talk about the economy. He can't talk about the border. He can't talk about crime. He can't talk about anything, really. Nothing meaningful to the average American. All he has to do is spend 90 minutes being reasonably coherent and rely upon Jake Tapper to shield him. That's basically what the debate will boil down to. I'm expecting there might be a few fireworks. That's why I'm going to be live reacting to it, regardless on which time zone I'm in at the time. But I don't expect it to change the metric greatly. I think it's advantaged Trump a little bit, but not necessarily to any great degree. I don't think it changes much. Nonetheless, it is going to be a bad June for Joe Biden. I do not believe he'll prevail at the debate. He's not going to get the knockout moment that he would need, in other words. I talked about that this morning. He's not going to get his own breakthrough moment because he can't really capitalize on it either, because that would have to be something you'd have to catch Trump with his pants down, but you can't really do that on the economy because his economy was fine. You can't do it with the border, certainly. You can't do it with diplomacy. The list of issues on which you can really catch him and get a gotcha moment is pretty thin. Unless he decides to pivot to abortion or something like that, and that's a side burner issue. Billy, Wisconsin will never legalize weed because of the bar leagues. Beer is their crop. They'll lose out on that revenue. Also, it'd be kind of hard to have a significant weed crop in a state that cold. So, you might think, well, we're going to end up importing it, basically. Like the WAP, Indica couch. Sparky, Newsom, Kushner, 24. Yeah. Rum on CGTC. We need a Styx Wizard strain. Yeah, I guess I could breed a weed strain or something. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to talk about it on a YouTube video. I guess I could advertise it on Rumble if I did that. I try to play by the rules, though. It may be legal under state law, but technically it is still federally, well, now semi-illegal. So I try to play nice. I go above and beyond to make sure that I comport to the law because I know that there are probably bureaucrats and shit out there that know who I am and don't really like me under the Biden administration. So Not really a fan of going to federal prison or something like that. So yeah, Joe Biden's got some fucking problems. He was acquitted on charges related to the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot. Now he's running for sheriff. Eric Molitor has filed to run in the Republican primary this August against Trent Taylor, the sheriff of Deep Red Wexford County in northern Michigan. I suspect that he will win if he's got a good branding strategy. His central message, he told CNN, is ensuring the least amount of government involvement and intrusion in our lives. Man, can you come and run for sheriff over here? And the cops around here are pretty bro-tier, but yeah, we could use definitely more of that sentiment. The 40-year-old from Cadillac, Michigan, describes himself as a big political activist and says he was considering running for township supervisor, but a conversation that he and his brother had with Taylor last month inspired him to enter the race for sheriff instead. I walked away from there having nothing but the utmost respect for how he handled the situation, because we have really tough questions for someone running for an office, and Taylor did not hesitate, he said. But Molitor and Taylor told them that he would enforce the state's recently enacted red flag gun safety law, which Molitor believes to be highly unconstitutional. The law, signed last year by Whitmer, a Democrat, makes it easier for law enforcement authorities to seize firearms from people who are believed to be a danger to themselves or others. It was among a series of gun safety laws signed by the Michigan governor after a string of deadly mass shootings, including at Michigan State in February 2023, that left 3 dead and several others wounded. Taylor told CNN he believes he's constitutionally obligated to enforce the state's laws and that it would be reckless not to do so, as Molitor has said he would. I happen to disagree with that, by the way. That being said, if you want somebody who looks the other way, who is skeptical of bringing forth prosecution on another individual, wouldn't you think that somebody that was literally entrapped by the feds as part of a cockamamie kidnapping plot that was mostly glow in the dark to begin with would be the one that would probably say, look, I know you're not supposed to have a gun. I didn't see it. Hide it under the floorboards. Just bury it in your garden like the revolutionaries used to or something. Bye. I would think that it would probably be him. I have a feeling he'll probably win in September. A jury found Molitor not guilty of one count of providing material support for a terrorist act and possessing a firearm when committing or attempting to commit a felony. State prosecutors had alleged that Molitor and others targeted Whitmer's northern Michigan vacation cottage and conducted surveillance of her home. And of course, several of them were acquitted because they were literally entrapped as part of this scheme. Molitor said he and others who feel wronged by the system, including those acquitted of charges in connection with the J6 attack on the U.S. Capitol, have a duty to step forth and enact reform. Apathy is what got us where we are today. We need to be the change that we want. And, to sit there and say someone needs to do so is unfair when we're the ones who have been personally affected by the issues we've seen. Yeah, definitely understood. So wish him well in his race. I disagree with the red flag proposal myself, but if you're going to get somebody to look the other way, it would be the person who's literally been entrapped by the feds. So wish him well in his election bid there. Yeah, guns get lost in boating accidents all the time, Metal Army 420. You smoking the reefer, man? Yeah, Michigan has become basically the Great Lakes, California, only colder. If I'm going to live in a hellhole leftoid state that hates guns and loves taxes, I'd just move to California because at least the weather would be better. Sometimes, depending on the part of the state that you're in. And you get a drought once in a while, or an earthquake destroys your garden as the soil goes through liquefaction. That would suck, but yeah. Yeah, I like guns myself. I would never want to move to a bluer state than Vermont. It's hard to get bluer, but we're not as anti-gun as like a California or a Wisconsin. Thankfully, not yet. In the future, I'm sure that it will be. Thinking about New Hampshire, should I get my cash infusion in the intermediate future? Might have a home built there, actually. Keene is nice. Claremont's kind of run down, but it's got some good shit. It's, the Chinese buffet and stuff. No, I think Keene, outer Keene would be more, it's a small town America. New Hampshire's nice. I was born there. Pretty cool. And then the final news story. Democratic Republic of Congo Army says it has thwarted an attempted coup. DR Congo Army spokesperson Brigadier General Sylvain Ekenge said that 50 suspects, including 3 Americans and a naturalized British citizen, have been detained. He previously said on state-run broadcaster RTNC TV that the situation is now under control. We'll see whether it's a Baghdad Bob moment or not, of course, in the coming days. His statement comes hours after armed men attacked the house of Vital Kamerhe, the former chief of staff and close ally of President Shisekedi early on Sunday morning. Probably mispronouncing it. Shisekedi. Witnesses say a group of about 20 assailants in army uniforms attacked the residence and an exchange of gunfire followed. 2 guards and an assailant were killed in the attack on Mr. Kemere's house, his spokesman and the Japanese ambassador said in posts on X. A weird situation. I guess the Japanese ambassador was there. He's like, oh, shit. The men also occupied the Palais de la Nation, the office of the President of the Republic, which is located in the city center, a place highly secured by the Republican Guard. Japan's ambassador in the Congolese capital has warned nationals not to go out. President Tshisekedi has not made any public comment on the situation so far. Local media reports said that the assailants were members of the New Zaire movement linked to formerly exiled Democratic Republic Congo politician Christian Malanga, who has acquired American citizenship. Mr. Malanga was shot dead at the presidential palace after he resisted arrest by security forces, Mr. Akenje said. His son, Marcel Malanga, was among the 3 American nationals arrested over the alleged coup attempt. So it looks like the outgoing authorities that had held the Congo before were attempting to reassert themselves. What specific centralized third party that was necessarily behind the coup attempt, of course, remains unknown at this time. But yeah, I don't think that they just dreamed it up on themselves. I don't think that a handful of former political individuals that had established a life in the United States randomly got together with a couple dozen other people and said, hey, you know, it'll be a good idea. I've been in that palace before and I know how high the security is. Let's go attack it. No, I don't think so. Can anyone say Bay of Pigs? The only problem is now we don't understand which central country would be behind the effort. Could be the U.S., could be the East Bloc. We're not exactly sure, but there was a coup attempt there, and it looks like all is seemingly calm at the moment over in Congo. Sparky, instead of bringing up Hillary signing over U.S. uranium to Russia when Hillary called him a Putin puppet during a debate, Trump got defensive. Yeah, well, Trump's been on the defense for, almost a decade now. It's not a big surprise. But yeah, and that's an example. Thank you, Sparky, by the way. It's an example of an opportunity for Trump to really nail it, and then he sort of sidesteps and makes no sense. He really drove it home on like the TPP. He nailed that one. He's nailed it so far for his Agenda 47 with the Internet Bill of Rights, Section 230. He just got the NRA endorsement. I know that some of them are FUDs, but it does matter for certain small town and rural voters. He's doing well. But in a debate, Donald Trump sometimes is handed the ability. All he needs to do is have a memory. And this is what I would advise him if I were debate coaching him. Memorize the major gaffes of the administration and people directly adjacent or part of it. If you can memorize those things and just run through them over and over again, get an encyclopedic sort of entry for those things, you can catch your opponent with their pants down. They will inevitably bring up some subject which is adjacent to that subject. So TPP, international trade, gun rights, the border, inflation, whatever it happens to be, some quip that they made 4 years ago. And you can compare it with what they're saying on the debate stage or what they've said in the contemporary sense, and you can nail them. That's all you have to do. You've got to do gotcha moments in debates. It's important. It boosts the energy. It gets attention. What part of a debate ends up going viral? Let's say that I debate another YouTuber. Which parts are going to be spread around more? The gotcha moments. The moments in which myself or the person that I'm debating said something really witty or caught you with your pants down. You're being a hypocrite. You're going against something you previously said. You've changed your mind or something like that. And then you nail it home as much as possible, as hard as possible. Trump has a difficulty doing this. His stream of consciousness approach is great for a boardroom. It's great for a rally. It's not great for a debate. And that's been a perennial problem with him. I mean, the reason why Joe Biden will still lose is because Biden doesn't have anything he can debate about. He can't bring up any issue without giving a gotcha moment potentially to Donald Trump. Even if Trump pulls his punches, he still prevails. Flytrap Sticks, we welcome you to New Hampshire, but Keene is a bit blue with all the college professors and students. Head a bit more northeast for more peace and less fiery protests. Yeah, Keene is pretty nice, though. It's still small town. It's a little bit bigger than Rutland. I'd be on the outskirts anyway. I'm not going to live in Keene proper if I were to move there. I'd want property on the edge of the city, outside of the established city area itself, where there's less rules and shit like that, and land tends to be cheaper. You get a couple of acres, preferably something with a little stream or a spring in it or something. I'm looking forward in the future to possibly a very large infusion of money. If that happens, then I will look at my options. I love Vermont. I love the Rutland area, but the Vermont government is insane. The taxes are skyrocketing. The cost of living is skyrocketing. The anti-gunnery is proliferating, and I don't know how much longer I'll be welcome in my own home state. Thankfully, I was born in the state of New Hampshire. It's right across the goddamn river, about 30 minutes away from here, so it's no problem. If I have to abandon the state of Vermont and take all of my money with me and they're robbed of hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax revenue, that's perfectly fine. It's all right by me. Don't worry, I'll still come and donate some of that okra to the food shelf. I'll have the back of people in Rutland, don't worry. I can't wait to do that, by the way. I mean, I was taking stock of the garden. I've run out of news stories, so I'm just going to rant for a bit here. I was taking stock of all the plants that I've grown and the likely yield, assuming that I have an average haul. I'm not assuming an early frost destroys everything or that there's a really hot, dry spell, but I'm also not expecting a bumper crop. I'm just going to expect a normal crop based on what I've planted. At a rough preliminary estimate, about half of that food is going to have to be donated, because there's going to be nothing else to do with it. I can't sit there and spend 5 hours a day canning and jarring food. While I would love to, I'd love to make my own soups and everything like that. My time is limited because I live stream and I make videos and I write and edit and read books all day and do news crawls and shit like that. Trust me, if I had the ability, I would spend the entire day in the garden and I'd have a greenhouse with a cot out there and I would literally never leave it, but I'm not at leisure to do that. Shuddy, then why are you growing so much? Because better to grow too much than too little. I can always donate some of that food. You know, give it to the local food shelf, and people who have nothing, they can have a good meal. And not just, I mean, everyone donates like probably zucchinis and beans and stuff to them. That's perfectly fine. Zucchinis are great, but I've got all sorts of other cool crops. Okra, I bet that the food shelf hasn't seen okra in forever, basically. Now, some people don't like it, but, you know. It's me again, Sai. Give food to neighbors. I'm going to probably be doing that too. We've also got a shit ton of berries, and they are all loaded with blossoms. I can't eat them all. They're right next to the property. I walk like 20 yards from here, and I'm in among a shit ton of raspberries and blackberries. Might as well make little containers. Some of it gets frozen. Some of it gets preserved. Some eaten fresh or put in some baked good, like muffins or something, and then you give some away. I mean, there's thousands of plants. It's an enormous haul. You wouldn't believe it. One time I made myself sick as a dog eating too many raspberries. I was out there picking them, right? I picked, I think, 3 large bowls full of it. I probably ate 3 large bowls full of it while I was picking them. That bowel movement was very interesting. I mean, that's like what, 2,000% of your daily fiber intake? Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt good afterwards. It didn't feel good at the time. M champion, moved to Alabama or some other state. I've thought about the Mid-Atlantic too, but I mean, I'm fond of New England. And New Hampshire is very pro-gun, and even the liberals aren't managing to change that. I was born there. I'm used to Vermont and New Hampshire mainly, so I'm inclined to stay here. The weather is not necessarily conducive towards my constant desire to garden, but I'd rather build a greenhouse and stay here than move to a warmer climate, I think. I like Texas. I like West Virginia. I like the Carolinas. I like Pennsylvania. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm a Vermonter and technically a New Hampshirean as well. Webster's Wares. We have a harvest stand we set up outside our house. We put all our extra there, and the neighbors love it. Yeah, the neighbor down the street, a couple houses down, actually used to do that. He had a little can there. He would grow zucchinis and tomatoes and stuff, and you could buy them, and then you just put the change in the thing, and he made a few dollars. He's dead now, unfortunately. I met the people, his children actually, that are taking over the house. They're sort of revamping it a bit. Unfortunately, they don't do gardening. And so his excellent tomatoes and zucchinis are off the market. I guess I'll have to compensate. But zucchinis don't like me. They always rot when I try to grow them. I have problems with squash plants. Sparky, there's a rumor that Trump will hire Pompeo again, despite Pompeo bragging that he betrayed Trump after Trump left office. Hope not. Pompeo wreaked havoc on foreign policy in Trump's first term. I don't think he'll hire Pompeo. Tony the Greaser. Sup, cats and chicks? Can anyone help setting up a store? Can't be me, unfortunately. I don't know anything about that. I prefer to work with other people that sell merch. It takes something off of my hands. I don't have enough time in the day to do like a mailroom sort of thing. and I don't have quite enough income to hire a staffer or anything like that. Making it in life, but I like to do things myself. What I really wish is that I grew infinite okra, actually. Thought about making like my own chili or hot sauce or something. That would be lucrative. But then in Vermont, the regulations in the state, especially if you want to get it certified, made in Vermont, organic and stuff, would be onerous. So I'd probably have to switch states in order to start a small business. Be a lot easier in New Hampshire. Their regulatory state is half the size of the Green Mountains. And the White Mountains are pretty cool anyway. No, there's all sorts of weird ghost stories and paranormal shit in New Hampshire too. The White Mountain lights and things like that. I love it. Yeah. Sigil Stone, sticks looking for infinite okra glitch. That and leeks. I can't wait to grow those next year. I didn't have room this year, but next year I'm growing leeks. Start them indoors and plant them out there. A couple hundred of them. Potato leek soup is good. By the way, Liz makes excellent potato leek soup. I'm going to be eating that when I'm in the Netherlands in a few weeks. Trust me. Stormblood 20, come to Northeast Indiana. I would prefer to be closer to the coast. If anything, I'd like to be closer to the ocean than I am now. And again, New Hampshire. I remember going on vacation with my family as a child to Hampton Beach, Northampton specifically, not the big sand strand. I don't like that, the tourist beach. I like the one with the rocks and shit, with the tidal pools. And you can find all sorts of cool stuff, shells and bones. Found a dolphin skull, actually, at one point, still in the other room. And I thought it was a demon skull at first, but I had it backwards. You can find all sorts of crazy shit, fish and seaweed. Also for gardening, grab a couple of trash bags full of that kelp. Yeah, you can make your own kelp tea, and the plants fucking love it. Webster's Wares. Clankers can write me at contact@websterswares.com, and I can give some advice on setting up a shop. Not gospel, though. I'm still learning as well. And BW. Trump don't strike me as the kind who don't learn. True. Yeah, I'm hoping that his hiring decisions get better. That and his debate style are the two things that have rankled me about him throughout this entire time. If he can improve one of them, that's perfectly fine. And just improve your hiring decisions and don't get a bunch of Boltons on board, and we'll call it a day. You'll already have succeeded as a president on a level that Biden can't, simply through proper hiring. Anyways, I think that I'm going to go offline now. I thank you to the over 4,000 people who tuned in live. Oh, there's one more super chat. Please send no more, though. I've got to go, and I'm getting hungry. I've got to eat meatloaf tonight, so that's good. I'm going to be sauteing stinging nettles as well. Delicious. Defying the meta. Go pee on your squash. They love pee. Tomatoes like it more, though. Sparky, Trump still hangs out with your boy, Lindsey Graham. They're frenemies. I can see through that one. And Lindsey Graham's no fan of Trump either. He's just a bitch. He's masochistic. He's got a fetish for it. That's why he always sucked off John McCain. Well, John McCain's dead. He had to find somebody else big and powerful and manly to suck up to. That's Lindsey Graham's brand and has been for his entire political career. That's about all. Oh, Webster's Ware said clank. Thank you. Peace out.